campaigners have cautiously welcomed claims Donald Trump will hand Britain an exemption to his steel tariff plan. The U.S. president is slapping 25% taxes on imports to the U.S. from 4 a.m. Friday.But he is reported to be ready to announce that he will spare EU nations, including the UK, from the punitive measure. Labour MP Stephen Kinnock, whose constituency includes Britain's biggest steelworks, Port Talbot, said steelworkers across the UK and Europe will sigh with relief if it is confirmed that the EU have secured a temporary exemption from the Trump tariffs, but we are by no means out of the woods yet. The EU and UK government must now redouble their efforts to secure a permanent exemption from the scattergun Trump tariffs. A temporary exemption is a sticking plaster when what we need is a cure. International Trade Secretary Liam Fox flew to Washington for crisis talks aimed at winning the EU an exemption last week, but returned empty-handed. Britain sends 350,000 tons to the US each year, valued at about £360 million. And insiders fear that even if Britain is exempted, our industry could still suffer a downturn because steel from other nations still subjected to the tariff could end up back on the world market, forcing down prices. Community Steelworkers Union General Secretary Roy Rickhuss said, "This exemption is of course welcome, but it is only part of the solution. If the Trump tariffs go ahead, then that will still mean millions of tons of steel looking for a new market, putting at risk thousands of steelworkers' jobs. That's why the UK government needs to ensure that the EU takes the necessary steps to introduce safeguards for all steel products which are affected by the US tariffs." UK steel boss Gareth Stace last week warned of potential problems even if the UK secured an opt-out. He told the Mirror last week, "There is 36 million tons of steel being imported into the US market from around the world. We estimate that perhaps 20 or 25 million tons will now not enter the US market because of the tariff and that will have to find a home to go to. That could easily come, some of it, all of it, part of it, to the UK or EU. Therefore we would see a flood of steel entering our market, which drives down prices and displaces our market. Even a proportion of 25 million tons entering our market could devastate either sections of our steel sector or have a massive significant impact on the whole of our steel sector." Pro-EU campaigners said the potential exemption showed ludicrous naivety of the UK planning to quit the Brussels customs union. Labour MP Chris Leslie, of the Open Britain group, and who sits on the International Trade Committee, said the Trump tariffs episode has been a brutal lesson in the realpolitik of international trade for the Brextremists in government. Our Brexit-supporting International Trade Secretary, Liam Fox, tried to get an exemption from the tariffs for the UK and achieved the sum total of nothing. But by negotiating through the EU as a bloc, we've secured a temporary exemption, at least. This just demonstrates again the ludicrous naivety of the government's red line on leaving the customs union. Our country is much better off as part of the world's largest trading bloc, rather than isolated and alone as the Brextremists want.